five senses are key to how we as humans experience our world. And if you're neurodiverse, we experience these five senses differently on many different levels. Hey everyone, it's Adaptive Goddess, and today I'm going to provide insight onto how my neurodiverse brain experiences the five senses, and they may be different than how you experience them. So what are the five senses? Well, there's sight, sound, smell, touch, and taste. For me, sound is a double whammy in terms of how I experience it. So for me growing up, I had a lot of problems with my hearing, and that led to me having trouble regulating the voice volume of my actual voice. And that led to a lot of conflict with my parents and some of my teachers and even my brother, because I would talk too loud, when in reality, that's how I heard myself growing up. So that's what my brain understood my sound to be as normal. Sound, if I'm in a classroom, can actually be very, very distracting, and I pinpoint on that sound so easily. So for example, if we were to take a test and there was construction work, I actually couldn't focus on my test. I'd be focusing on the construction work outside. So the double whammy part comes in because I also love music. I grew up loving music. My grandmother taught me how to sing, and she was an opera singer. And so for me, music, especially classical music, played a large part of my life. And so when I would study, I actually would listen to classical music. I also love going to concerts, and I love being really up close to the sound and hearing it and feeling it through my body. And I loved choir because it was a way for me to hear all the sound. And for me, sound is very, very, very relaxing, like the sound of the waves crashing on the ocean. Sight was something that I struggled with because I didn't really know what made me calm when I would see things. I also didn't know what triggered me with sight. What I find calming for me is the color blue, because it reminds me of the ocean, and I absolutely love water. I love anything about water. So blue is always very calming for me. And with sight, in terms of reading, it was very, very hard for me to comprehend what I was seeing in a book. I actually had to hear it and see it in order to actually comprehend what I was reading in the book. So everyone can think of some smell that reminds them of their childhood or reminds them of something really happy. For me, I have a very different take on smell because I can smell super, super faint things sometimes, especially if it deals with food. For me, what calms me down is the smell of like sea salt, because again, it reminds me of that ocean. I also love the smell of sugar cookies or anything that's sweet. I have a major sweet tooth. I also really love the smell of apple cider vinegar and ginger because that smell reminds me of my grandmother's place. And she was always very calming for me. When I was growing up, I would have some tantrums around food, especially around dinner time. And it wasn't until I got older that I realized it was the smell of my mother's curry that would cause me to have a tantrum, because I would get so much anxiety and fear around eating my mother's curry because for me, it was way too spicy. The smell of my mother's curry leads me into taste. So taste is one of those that is very different for everybody because we all have very different taste buds that get activated when we eat certain foods. I have a major sweet tooth. Dopamine, the pleasure neurotransmitter, rushes into my brain anytime I eat anything sweet. And so it gives me really warm and fuzzy feelings. But I like other tastes too. I love seafood. Again, I love the ocean, so it's not too surprising. But for some people, it is kind of weird. I love the taste of it, especially things like oysters and clams and crab, things that other people are like, ew, that's gross, but I like it. So growing up, I was taught to kind of clear my plate and to eat a lot of things. And I love trying new food. So I really don't have any food that causes me too many triggers right now. But growing up, I would have a lot of tantrums over my mother's curry because it was way too spicy. And growing up, the only spicy thing I could stand is the hot and sour soup from the local Chinese restaurant. I can tell you that for me, one of the most important senses is touch, because that is how I experience my outer world so much more than any of the other senses. So one of my most calming sensations of touch comes from water. I am my most calm when I'm in it. I love the weightlessness of water. I love the silkiness of it. And I love how it just feels against my skin. And I love the way I can glide through it and feel like I'm flying. Another sensation that has calmed me down in the past is the feeling of shag. It is very bristly against my skin, and it actually kind of calms down my skin in terms of I'm not so over tense. It kind of reminds me that I can relax and take a breath. So some of the sensations of touch I don't like are things that are prickly. I do not like needles. I have a huge reaction in terms of I tense up so much when I have to get a shot, when I have to get an IV or anything like that. I hate it. I also really don't like things that are very sandpapery. I don't mind sand like at an ocean, but I don't like sandpaper sensation. It just is so rough on my skin that I don't like it. Comment down below which of the 5 senses is your favorite. For me, I think anything that deals with water, so whether it's the touch or the sound or the taste, is for me super calming and my favorite. So that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe and gently tap that like button. And remember to be kind, compassionate, and true to you.